Beneath the city of New York are living catacombs, an endless maze of subterranean tunnels, unfit for anything human, unauthorized for anything experimental.
Hold it! There's something moving up ahead in the tunnel!
And unlikely to bring anyone down there. So, they're coming up. C.H.U.D. C.H.U.D. Check your basement and your bathroom. Keep off the street and try to hide. But remember, the dark is their place. The night is their time. And tomorrow, the only things living in the city of New York will be C.H.U.D. C.H.U.D. Cannibalistic, humanoid, underground dwellers. C.H.U.D. They're not staying down there anymore.
Yeah, welcome to Drive-In Double Feature, where we cover 2 movies a week every Tuesday and Thursday. I'm Nathan.
I'm Ryan.
And today we are talking about 1984's C.H.U.D. C period, H period, U period, D period, C.H.U.D. Yeah, it's an acronym title. But yeah, so you've seen C.H.U.D. before, right?
Yeah, and I didn't like it then. And, after a second viewing, I gotta say, I still don't like it.
Wow. Yeah, not even a reassessment. I don't know. God, it sucks. It's one of those movies with a catchy name, and then I've seen like the special effects for not the aliens, the humanoids, and I was like, oh God, this has to be cool. This has to be a cool 80s movie. No.
It feels, because when you said we're going to do C.H.U.D., I remembered watching this movie, and I'm like, I know I've seen this movie, but for the life of me, I couldn't remember one thing that happened in it. And just full disclosure, I just got done watching this movie about an hour ago, and I'm having trouble remembering it now.
Yeah. What's funny is our last episode, Eat My Dust, was a Roger Corman production. This is another New World Pictures Roger Corman production. I don't think he had his hands as deep into this one, but it's still in the same company. So back-to-back Roger Corman stuff.
I only know Roger Corman from quality movies, so I don't want to believe that he had anything to do with this.
Oh, yeah. He only ever made good stuff, right? Yeah. God. And so going into C.H.U.D., I've been trying to think of a question to ask you beforehand. I'm not too sure. So I just wanted to ask you, do you have any favorite 80s horror movies? Let's just talk 80s horror. What's some of your favorite?
There's some really good ones, but put me on the spot just thinking off the top of my head. Return of the Living Dead is really good.
It's a lot of fun.
It's a really fun one. Reanimator.
Classic.
Man.
No, I know. I really put you on the spot on that one. I like to think of like The Thing. The Thing is one of my all-time favorite horror.
When we talked about John Carpenter during Dark Star, and neither one of us mentioned The Thing, and I was thinking that when I re-listened, I was like, how did we not say The Thing?
I know, right? Even my dad, who listens to the show, he was like, Nathan, you didn't mention The Thing, and I was like, oh my God, you're right. I can't believe it. Now, another one that I think is more fun is Gremlins. I love Gremlins. That's a solid Christmas horror 80s movie.
No, is that a Christmas movie? I mean, it's not as Christmas as Die Hard.
I know. Die Hard is probably the most Christmas movie to ever exist. So,
okay. So I just pulled up my list. But no, some other ones I'm remembering is the Evil Dead movies, of course.
Of course.
All the Evil Dead movies, both of them. Well, yeah, okay, because the third one's in the 90s. But that one was really good. The Fly with Jeff Goldblum, that was great.
Movie.
And I'm going to say this, a really underrated one, which I think gets a lot of shit, but it's really good, is actually Psycho 2.
Psycho 2, yeah. I watched the Psycho franchise recently, and Psycho 2 is really good. I think it's crazy underrated. I think just because it's a sequel to an Alfred Hitchcock movie that's not Hitchcock, that's one we have to cover on the show.
Absolutely. There's a lot of great 80s horror movies, and this is not one of them.
Yeah, this one does not come onto the list. A lot of the stuff we just mentioned was fun or was doing something interesting, and I just don't think this was there.
I was going to say, I almost question, could you even call this a horror movie? Because it does not feel like a horror movie.
Yeah, it's more of a mystery movie, right? I would say, but an hour of this plot line is just like mystery. Them trying to figure out what C.H.U.D is.
It's like a government conspiracy type of movie where you find out that they're dumping all this chemical waste underground, like in the sewers where a bunch of homeless people live, and it's turning them into mutants.
And that's about it. I will say this movie has like a weirdly stacked cast. Like John Hurd everybody knows this is his dad from Home Alone, and he's also in Big. It's got Daniel Stern, who's also in Home Alone.
Now, do you think John Hughes watched this movie and said, those are two guys I want for my Home Alone movie?
Yeah, I think when he was writing that script, he definitely had John Hurd and Daniel Stern in mind. Who doesn't have Daniel Stern on their mind always? But no, I was going to say it also has Kim Grease who is the woman from Brazil. The whole time I was watching this movie, I was like, who is this lady? I know her. And then I was like, oh, she's from Brazil. So, but yeah, it's got a weirdly stacked cast, but none of them are doing anything great. And I actually really like Daniel Stern.
You forgot one of my favorite actors is also in this movie. It's like John Goodman is in this movie.
Yes, John Goodman shows up. God, yeah, I remember I was looking through the cast list, just scrolling through, and I was like, John Goodman? What is he doing in this?
Which he only has one scene in the movie, and I think he only has like one or two lines, but he plays like a New York cop, and he walks into a diner. He's like, hey, how you doing?
Yeah, exactly. Dang, and that's crazy. Because I'm gonna guess this predates Roseanne. Then I don't know when.
Definitely.
Started.
Oh, definitely. Roseanne
was 90s.
It was late 80s, but yeah, this predates it. So.
Oh, okay, yeah. And then that would push him.
Yeah, this was like his film debut year because he did this one, and the other big one he did the same year was Revenge of the Nerds.
Nice. And then True Stories was pretty soon after this as well.
I think it was the next year, yeah.
Wow. Yeah, he really had his breakthrough. And then he got to play Fred Flintstone.
Yeah.
Every actor's dream.
Skyrocketed.
Yeah, launched into the top. But to get into C.H.U.D, C.H.U.D's... go ahead.
Sorry, I was going to go back to your original point where you said about Daniel Stern. He's pretty bad in this movie.
Oh yeah, he's bad, and I don't dislike Daniel Stern at all. But he plays like a homeless cook. He like cooks for the homeless that like live underground. But he gets a bigger part in this. To be honest, the whole government espionage stuff, I didn't care about at all. It was uninteresting.
Not one time did I was felt invested in this movie, and it felt like, because there's a lot of scenes where they're threatening government officials, being like, if you don't tell us what's going on, I'm going to the papers. And they're like, well, fine, go. Like, what are you going to tell them? You're being attacked by monsters? Go right ahead.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Exactly. And there's there's hardly any stakes for any of the movie. There's a weird plot line with our main character, John Hurd, and his girlfriend. He's a fashion photographer, and she gets pregnant, and she doesn't know she wants the baby. That's just a plot line in this movie for some reason. The whole fashion photography thing is interesting. I do think that's an interesting thing, blow up, to have just the idea of a fashion photographer being thrown into something like this. It's just not done well. He does his breakthrough piece on the underground tunnels with the homeless, but it doesn't do enough with that. It just never goes to the levels I want my horror to go. Like you said, is it even a horror movie?
Yeah. I mean, it kind of feels like it's not like it, but it's not on the same scale, but it kind of feels like those Roland Emmerich type of movies where it's just we have to see what's going on in different areas at all times. So it's there's 3 different characters you're following. It's you're following, you're following 4 really. You're following the police captain, you're following Daniel Stern, you're following John Hurd, and you're following his girlfriend, wife, whatever.
Oh yeah, whatever she is.
Yeah.
And once again, I just could care less for their plight. Unfortunately, there's a scene with a dead dog. They throw that in for good measure for whatever reason.
Yeah.
Yeah, and there's not even enough violence. It's crazy that there's a dead dog in this movie because that's something you do in a movie that's crazy with its violence, but this doesn't go that extra mile. It just shows that.
Yeah. So, I mean, when you're making a horror movie, I mean, we kind of talked about this when we talked about Jesus, Bro. If you fail at the thing you're trying to accomplish, it's just going to be a really dreadful experience. That one was a bad comedy. It was really bad the whole time. This one, so when I'm looking for a horror movie, I'm either looking for show me some really cool stuff, show me a lot of cool kills, or, just something gross, whatever. Or, make it a really creepy atmosphere, make it feel like I'm actually being kind of scared or whatever, Don't Torture a Duckling. We talked about that. That's a really eerie type of movie where it's that's kind of stuff I'm looking for.
Yeah. And you're saying that you got none of that from this movie.
I got neither one of those things from this movie, because even the gross stuff, I mean, I'm really trying to think as far as gross stuff. There's that one scene where a guy clearly had a bite taken out of his leg.
Mm-hmm.
There's the dead dog and a couple of severed heads.
Yeah, that's about it. That is about it. You don't even get to see the creature makeup that much. You don't get to see the CHUDs.
No, I mean you see them kind of standing around at one point, and then at the very end of the movie, the last 10 minutes, you see them finally walking and doing something.
Yeah, and the climax, I don't know, it just felt underwhelming to me. It'd be something if it was slow burned and do much, and then it had a really cool ending. But the ending, I feel like I looked away for a second, looked back, and it was over.
That's exactly how I felt as well, because so they were putting gas down into the sewers to basically explode the sewers to kill all the CHUDs, and the government guy was trying to make sure that Daniel Stern and John Hurd were caught underneath there, so they would also die in the explosion, but they got out.
Yeah,
government guy dies, sewers explode, movie's over.
Yeah, and it just happened so fast. I was the movie ended. I was oh, okay, this is it. No, nothing after it. It didn't feel like anybody, because the whole deal is that they were CHUD. Its fake abbreviation is Cannibalistic Humanoid Underground Dwellers, but come to find out that actually was fake, and it was actually a way for them to dispose nuclear waste in the sewers, and then it mutated the homeless that lived down there. I felt like this whole plot line happened and nobody really got their due. The bad guy didn't really get their due. He died, but it wasn't that big of a deal.
I know. And there was no real justice served. It was just I guess the whole world knows that there's monsters that live in the sewers at one point. There was, so.
Yeah. I will say, maybe this is it. It took itself too seriously. I think it took itself too seriously for a movie named C.H.U.D about underground dwellers. It took itself too seriously, but it also didn't go far enough with its anti-environmental or anti-government kind of deal. It didn't push that angle either. It felt very plain.
Well, that's the thing. I mean, if you're gonna do a horror movie, you got to add a little bit of silliness in there or make it extra creepy. Or if you're going the route you said, where they're kind of making like a government is killing, like suspense thriller type of thing, you can't have goofy looking aliens in the movie either.
No, yeah. I don't know what they were thinking. And obviously, the director, Douglas Cheek, this is his only work. This is his only directorial work, probably for good reason. So
he didn't direct Bud the Chud?
He did not make Bud the Chud. That was somebody else. I wonder if Bud the Chud has a better director.
But I mean, obviously, you know, we were not alive when this movie came out, but is this movie really beloved or something? Because I do see this movie get brought up in other groups. So that's why I'm always kind of like, I don't really understand the appeal of it, is what I'm saying.
No, I don't either. I actually, on my Letterboxd, my ratings for this movie are actually a little favorable because I follow a good amount of people that watch like 80s cheese, you know, horror movies, because I like just finding out about these movies. People seem to like this movie. It was referenced on The Simpsons. I'm going to put that quote in.
And that's when the chuds came at me.
Oh, Homer, of course you'll have a bad impression of New York if you only focus on the pimps and the chuds.
So it comes up, and I really think it's just because of the name. I do. I think that's it. I think as far as references and people bringing it up, it's just because the movie's named C.H.U.D.
That's the only thing I could think of. Like, it's so ridiculously titled. It's just like, you know, those people that love collecting 80s horror movies, they just like, oh, I got C.H.U.D.
Look, C.H.U.D. And they didn't sit down and watch it, or they watched the first 30 minutes and they're like, this is boring.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. I mean,
somebody's bound. Every movie is somebody's favorite movie.
I didn't like it by any means, but it's not, you know, it's not terrible. It's not like god awful or anything like that. It's
it's not the worst thing we've covered.
But I guess the only thing that makes me a little more upset by it or a little more annoyed by it is that it should have been really exciting, but it wasn't.
Yeah. I just wanted something out of it, you know? Like, at least, I do think it's a better movie than maybe Jesus Bro. But at least Jesus Bro, I had some kind of enjoyment of cringing at it, and this one was more just dead on delivery boring. You get what I mean?
This is about on the same par for me as like Spirit of Christmas, honestly, or like maybe even like a little below Hitler, Dead or Alive.
No, I'm looking at my ranked list now, which I updated. C.H.U.D is below Hitler, Dead or Alive for me, and then Spirit of Christmas is right below it as well.
I have it in the exact same spot.
Just kind of a weak movie. When I go to do these shows with you, I at least hope that I can have some type of fun with it. And like we talked about, one of the worst things a movie can do is just be boring. And this movie does that.
Yeah. And it's a real shame because, you know, you and I we do take down some bad movies, but honestly, like, I go in with 100% open mind, and and almost half of the time, I mean, like, there's some like Jesus Bro where I know it's going to be bad, or Zombie 90 where I know it's going to be ridiculously stupid. But at the same time, I go in hoping to like it. I don't ever go into these hoping that I'm going to have a miserable time ever.
Yeah, that's the thing is, like, I don't. You go in to watch a movie and you're like, I'm going to hate this movie. That's going to ruin watching movies for you. I couldn't imagine living that way, because I've seen so many movies in my life that I've been surprised by. Really, like, I've just picked up a movie and been like, this was surprisingly good. And we've had a few of those on this show where I've been like, maybe not completely surprised, but I've been like, I've enjoyed that. I had a good time.
Like I said, we did Dark Star. That was a surprisingly big hit for me. I love that one. So
well, I'm glad, man. No, I think about like Golgo 13. That was a really cool find. I liked Cop. I know that Cop was a surprise for me. That keeps coming up, but
yeah. That's one we have a different opinion on. Same as Dark Star.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Same as Eat My Dust.
Yeah, same as Eat My Dust. But at the end of the day, all those movies, I at least pulled some enjoyment out of, and C.H.U.D just wasn't there.
There's definitely like a threshold when we cover these movies. So we've done 15 episodes, or we've covered 15 movies so far. And I think right after you hit like number 10 or number 11, that's when it's like movies that I did not get any enjoyment from.
Yeah, I'm taking a look. Mine, I would say, is 12. 12.
That's right underneath number 11, 12. So C.H.U.D, Spirit of Christmas, Jesus, Bro, and Wired. Those are the four I did not like at all.
Those are the four that I might have said I don't recommend some of the other ones, but I wouldn't be like, no, do not watch it. C.H.U.D, Spirit of Christmas, Jesus, Bro, and Wired. Those are ones I'd be like, no, you do not have to check that out. Do not give it.
Yeah, unless you get a real specific niche taste, I wouldn't recommend those four.
No. So now you heard it from us. C.H.U.D is not the one.
Yeah, and I don't know. I'm trying to think of something. Oh, one scene I do want that I thought was kind of funny was so there's one scene where Daniel Stern's character is getting tailed by, I guess, like a government agent or something like that. Mm-hmm. And he goes to a payphone to call the newspaper or police, whatever. And he sticks a quarter in there, and the guy comes up behind and hits the receiver, hangs up the call. And the quarter comes out, and the guy takes the quarter and he eats the quarter. Right in front of him.
Maybe some of the makeup's good on the homeless people, So some of the homeless people are a little eccentric. That's always fun. I've seen a good homeless person in a movie.
That's what I'm saying. If there was more out there stuff like that, or something like real goofy, or like the bad guy was like so ridiculously evil.
Yes.
I could see myself enjoying it more, but it's just one of those where I'm just like, after we get done talking about this, I'll probably never watch C.H.U.D again.
Yeah, no, until it gets the Criterion Collection treatment, then we're screwed.
Do you remember when they did there was a fake announcement that C.H.U.D was going to be in the Criterion?
Really? No, I did not know that. That's awesome.
One of their April Fool's Day jokes was that C.H.U.D was going to be in a Criterion.
Look at that. That's another reference to C.H.U.D. All these places are bringing C.H.U.D back to life.
Hey, please, we always say at the end of each episode to email us with any feedback. If you love C.H.U.D, please email us and tell us about how much you love C.H.U.D and why.
Yeah, send us an email at drive-in-double-feature-podcast@gmail.com. We would love to hear your love for C.H.U.D. We'll read it on the dang show.
Absolutely. 100% we will.
But yeah, that about covers it. So I guess I'm going to throw it over to you. Ryan, what are we covering next week?
Nathan, there's one thing I love more than anything, and that's cheerleaders.
Oh, okay. Yikes.
No, I'm being funny. But no, we are going to be talking about the 1974 movie, The Swinging Cheerleaders. And it is also 100% available on Tubi. This is a high school type of movie. So if you want to watch along with us, you'll see it on Tubi, and we'll talk about it right here on the podcast.
Yeah, I'm super excited to indulge in a little cheerleading. So, yeah.
Well, will we give it an A or give me an F? Find out.
Well, you'll find out.
But as we said earlier, if you have any feedback, if you like the podcast, you don't like the podcast, is there something that you think we should cover? Please email us at drive-in-double-feature-podcast@gmail.com. But until then, we'll see you next time.
See you next time.